We know our sentences are way too long. We know these prisons are doing nothing to rehabilitate people. We know we can have families that stay together and that communities are safer if we just pass some common sense reform. Every time we get close, we get more excuses. And now you hear what's going on now. Now we've got a game of Goldilocks. Oh, we can't pass this bill. It's got too many reforms in it. Oh, we can't pass this one. It doesn't have enough reforms in it. We're waiting for a perfect bill. We say enough of that. We need reform now. We're not waiting any longer. We're going to be out here today. Tomorrow we're going to swarm the Senate, and we're going to tell these folks we need justice reform now.
What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. Because our families can't wait. Families
Can't wait.
Families can't wait.
All right. Again, we're so thankful that you guys came. This event is about families. Because at FAM, it's not just about policy, it's not about recidivism rates, it's not about crime statistics, it's about families that are hurting, who have been apart from each other for too long, and they're sick of waiting for Congress to do its job. So I said, if they didn't do their job and they didn't listen to the families, we'd bring the families here, and now they'll listen. So tomorrow and today, when you have a chance to meet with members of Congress, please tell them, no more waiting, no more passing the buck. Do your job, okay? All right, so we have some awesome family members here who are going to speak about their different experiences with the system, how they've been affected by it. And first, I want to invite one of our co-sponsors to the event, Amy Pova from the Can Do Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin Ring and FAM, for doing all the heavy lifting to bring everybody here. And thank you for asking the Can Do Foundation to be one of the organizers. As he said, my name's Amy Pova. I started the Can Do Foundation after I got out of prison. I served 9 years on a 24-year sentence. And in the 27 years that I have been aware and woke, this is the first bill. The First Step Act is the first bill that has substantial language in it that actually will have an impact upon the currently incarcerated people like no other bill I've read. It's not words on a piece of paper. It has accountability. And I am excited to introduce somebody who I've known for some time. Her brother is in prison. She's going to talk about Robert, who will actually get an immediate release if First Step Act is passed. And we got a big job ahead of us, but I know we can do it because the prisoners are what matter. They count, and we got to put prisoners above politics. Vita Ajamu, who's a sister of Robert Shipp. Here you go. Love you.
Love you back.
Amazing advocate right here.
Good afternoon. Okay, we can do better than that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Vita Ajamu. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I am excited about today. I said I am excited about today. It is indeed an honor and privilege to stand with advocates, family members, members of Congress, and sponsors of this event in support of the criminal justice reform. At the age of 21, my brother Robert Shipp received a life sentence for 5 months involvement in a nonviolent drug conspiracy. And yes, right, ooh, it hurts still today. 2015, Robert received a sentence reduction to 30 years due to the Drugs -2 amendment. While we are grateful for the reduction, this is still not true justice. Robert has served almost 25 years in prison. To be exact, 24 years, 10 months, and 4 days. This is over half of his life. So my fight for freedom and justice for my brother, it continues. It continues until he walks out of those prison doors. As we know, there are thousands and thousands of people still serving unjust sentences for nonviolent offenses while their children suffer. And in most cases, many cases, their loved ones pass away. Robert's daughter was one when he went to prison. His mother, she struggles with his incarceration. And she's in constant prayer for her son's return home. My father's unexpected death in 2012, it remains difficult because I know how much my father wanted and needed his son home. I made a promise to my father on his deathbed that I would never, never, ever stop fighting for my brother's freedom. Robert wasn't able to attend the funeral. And that makes it even harder because he wasn't able to say goodbye. But the sad thing about this is we're not alone. I've learned that a whole lot of people have this story. So I just want to know, is there anybody here that have had an instance or a situation similar to mine? Am I alone? I didn't think so. The current administration and members of Congress need to hear from us. They need to talk to us, families, family members that's been impacted by mass incarceration. We need to share our stories with them so they would better understand the need for criminal justice reform. I'm asking everyone to become advocates. Everyone can be an advocate. Contact your members of Congress. Share your story. Encourage them to support criminal justice reform. If they don't already, I know that you can and will make a difference. We need criminal justice reform now. Too much time has passed. We cannot wait, not another day, not another hour, not another minute, not another second. The time is now. Hashtag restore our families. Hashtag right this wrong. Hashtag criminal justice now. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. My name is James Ackerman. I'm the president and CEO of Prison Fellowship. I wore this suit because somebody told me that it was only 50 degrees outside today, so I don't have to deal with that one. At Prison Fellowship, we believe strongly that no one is beyond God's transformative power. Yes? That God has a plan for everybody's life. If you're here, God has a plan for your life. The only question is, are you willing to step into that plan? Yesterday, I had the pleasure of visiting one of Prison Fellowship's many academies, this one at Rikers Island, and I went there with the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Corrections for New York City. This academy, which is an intensive program designed to help men and women in prison become healthier and more productive citizens. This academy is a bright, shining light in a dark place that is Rikers Island. It was really incredible to see. One of the guys that stood up was about 6'5", about this wide. He could have been a linebacker, and he stood up and shared his story. He took responsibility for the mistake he made. He owned it. He talked about how he'd stepped back into faith and was walking with the Lord again, and that he was determined to never return to this place, and credited the academy for helping him get onto the right track. And this is really what the First Step Act is all about, right? Is introducing a more restorative approach to criminal justice. Yes, people are sent to prison to serve out a sentence, but let's make these prisons places of restoration and rehabilitation. Yeah. Is it not our responsibility and our elected leaders' responsibility to have people return from prison who are healthier and more productive? And what is that going to do? It's going to produce safer communities. So the First Step Act is all about introducing more programming. Did you know that the Bureau of Prisons recently confirmed there are 16,000 people in the federal system awaiting literacy classes? Do you want to give almost, it is shameful, and we can almost guarantee that somebody is going to have a very difficult time re-entering society from prison if they can't read, right? And there's all kinds of programming designed to help people deal with anger issues, deal with addiction issues, get trained in practical life skills like managing money and things of that kind. And the First Step Act orders the Bureau of Prisons and provides the funding to make that happen. Yeah? Now, this young girl's got a sign. Can you hold that sign up for me just a second? It said, "I shouldn't have to live without a dad," right? And she's absolutely right. You know, Prison Fellowship understands that. Since the 1980s, we've had a program called Angel Tree, which we're now expanding year-round through sports clinics and summer camps. But last Christmas, we helped coordinate tens of thousands of volunteers to purchase and deliver Christmas gifts on behalf of incarcerated moms and dads to their children on the outside. We served 284,000 children last year. Yeah? But what's really important, it isn't so much what Angel Tree did, but what's really important is what a chaplain in Virginia said to me recently. He said at Coffeewood Prison, which is just the closest prison pretty much to where we're standing, he said, the very thread by which the relationship hangs between these men and their children is Angel Tree. Getting incarcerated men in the federal system closer to their families has got to be a priority. The idea that I could find myself found guilty of a crime in a federal court here in D.C., but shipped off to Georgia, right, makes no sense at all, right? And the economic impact of a parent going away to prison, as many of you know, is disastrous. So you can hardly afford to buy airline tickets and go fly to see dad and all of those things. It's not possible. That's another part of the First Step Act. Let's get these men and women closer to their children so they can be in community with them. And then lastly is about bridging re-entry and making it easier for people to get integrated. And I want to say to you all, this is where we come in, right? We need to raise our hands, and in our churches and in our local community groups, raise our hand and say, we're taking in men and women who are coming out of prison, and we're going to walk with them, not as projects, but as brothers and sisters in the Lord, with the intention of helping them reintegrate to society well. One study that was done of one of our academies found that when a graduate walked with a mentor for up to a year, the recidivism over a 2 to 3 year period of that person or those people were a mere 0.8%, almost immeasurable. So let me wrap up by just saying we need action now, right? They've done their job, right? In a vote of 360 to 59, the House passed the First Step Act. So they now need to do their job. And we have been in community with the White House over the course of the last year, and I can confirm to you the White House, from what we've been told, is supportive of the First Step Act. So if they get a bill signed, it goes to the White House over there. It goes to the White House, and we're going to have people coming home like this woman's brother who just spoke a moment ago. So thank you so much for your time. God bless you, and thank you for standing out in the heat for justice and justice reform.
All right, this is a real treat. Listen close.
Good afternoon. My name is Kennedy Steele Williams. I'm 16 years old, and I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
My name is Kendall Williams. I'm 13 years old as of tomorrow. Thank you. And I'm also from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Our father has been incarcerated for the past 13 years, and we are here to tell how that has affected our lives. My dad was active the first 3 years of my life. I was young, so majority of that time is a blur to me besides the pictures and stories I'm told. I do remember always asking my mom, "Where's Daddy?" or telling her I missed my dad because I never fully understood why he wasn't coming home until I was about 7 or 8. As I've gotten older, I can admit I have developed more of an anger towards the situation. I understand everyone makes mistakes, and some mistakes are bigger than others, and I'm not mad at what he did. I'm mad because every girl wants to have a daddy-daughter relationship, and I can't have one like I want. It would be so much easier if he was home so we could have the relationship I desire. He has missed out on so many parts of me blossoming into the young lady I have become. Now my teenage years are coming to an end, and I graduate in 2 years, and I would hate if he missed that.
As we said in the beginning, my father was incarcerated before I was born. This means he hasn't been here for any of my life. And my 13th birthday is tomorrow, which means that will be a full 13 years where he has been gone from me and my family. It definitely does have its tolls because people with both parents often say they couldn't imagine it. Well, imagine with me. You're about to turn 13, and your entire life you have to live knowing you may not see your dad for a really long time. You eventually communicate with him and build a relationship. But the more the relationship builds, the farther apart it feels you are. And eventually, all you want to do is give him a big hug to comfort him and let him know that you still love him. But you can't because you're 500 miles apart. Without him, there's a missing puzzle piece. It's like if I were to complete it, I would be my true self. It's like I'm missing my best friend and I don't even know it. Even though he's not around, I work hard on my education and turning out to be a nice young man, but I do hope that he will be home before I do become a young man. We believe that the criminal justice system should be reformed because it is extremely unjust.
There are so many people incarcerated for crimes they didn't commit, or some are given too much or too little time, especially since most of the sentences are based off of African American drug dealers who are sentenced for so much time. Thank you.
All right, see if I'm tall enough here. Yeah. All right, well, thank you both for sharing your story, and thank you, everybody, for coming today. I'm Jessica Jackson Sloan, the National Director of Cut 50, an initiative to end mass incarceration. We're also proud to support the First Step Act. So for me, this fight is personal, like many of you, because my daughter, Hannah, was only 2 months old when we stood in a Georgia courtroom and watched her dad sentenced to 15 serve 6.
At the time, I was too young to know that we would not get to see him or be in contact with him for the next 6 weeks, and it would be a 100-mile drive just to see him. There are 10 million kids in America who grew up with a mom or dad behind bars. It makes you wonder, how can we end this cycle? As a kid, it is very confusing to watch adults fight over politics instead of helping people solve these problems. I hope our voices today will help our elected representatives understand that there are real lives and families at stake. I'm honored here to join you all in this movement so we can break these cycles, get people home, and get people the help they need, and they can be reunited with their moms and dads.
So like Hannah said, it's so important that we're all here today and all sharing our stories. And even for the people who can't be here today, who are just watching on Facebook Live or watching on TV, it's important that they call and share their stories and remind our DC politicians that it is real families we're talking about. So to continue that conversation, it's my honor to introduce to the stage Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Senator Whitehouse has not only been a fierce advocate for criminal justice reform during his tenure as senator here in D.C. representing the great state of Rhode Island, but he's also spent time as a U.S. attorney and an attorney general of his state. As the Democratic co-sponsor of the First Step Act, woo! We are so appreciative of your leadership and commitment to this issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Well, thank you all for being out here. This is such an important thing to keep you out in the hot sun, and I'm really grateful to you for being out here in the hot sun. As a United States attorney and as the Attorney General of a state where the Attorney General has the full criminal prosecution authority for that state, we have no DAs in Rhode Island. That's what the Attorney General does. I have done a lot to make sure that people went into prison. What I learned in the course of my prosecutor years is that we need to do a lot more to help people when they are getting back out of prison. And Rhode Island was one of the leaders in this area, thanks to the leadership of a really forward-thinking corrections director, A.T. Wall, who I know many of you worked with during his long career. What we found is that when people are coming out of prison, they may have some needs to help them succeed when they're out. It could be as simple as job training or finishing their GED. It could be making sure that they are connected with substance abuse support. It could be that they need some mental health counseling. It could be that they need some family counseling to help with their reunification with their families. It could be that they need some help finding housing or finding a job. Whatever it is, you can identify those needs. And when you do, the people leaving incarceration are more likely to succeed. That helps everyone. When the crime rate goes down, which it did in Rhode Island after we followed these procedures, everybody wins. When there is less return to incarceration, which happened in Rhode Island when we did these procedures, everybody wins. And it's particularly important when people are being released from prison into underserved communities already, that they have a support set that can make them succeed. We don't want people back in prison simply because we didn't support their transition out of prison. So this is something that we can work on together. We're going to keep trying to keep the pot boiling on this in the Senate so that it looks like there's progress, which will get progress on the sentencing side as well, which is something we need to work on a little bit in the Senate. And then we need to keep working this forward and get a bipartisan bill passed. When the federal government is operating at its best and providing these services to people who are coming out of incarceration, that will help propagate the progress that we've seen in Rhode Island and Texas and other states nationally as well. We would like the Federal Bureau of Prisons to be a model for this, not a laggard, and we need to make sure that our federal BOP is doing its best in this space. So we're going to keep working. Thank you for continuing to advocate. This is important. This will work. We just have to keep the pressure on and let people come together, which I think we will. Thank you very much for what you're doing. God bless you. Have a great afternoon.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Molly Gill. I'm FAM's Vice President of Policy. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's hear it for these members of Congress who are supporting criminal justice reform, huh? Yeah. They don't get enough love. Let's hear it. All right. The one I'm about to introduce to you now almost needs no introduction whatsoever. This is the place where mandatory minimum sentences go to die. Representative Bobby Scott from the great District of 6 of Virginia down in Norfolk is here today with us. We are so happy he's here. And, I just have to say that every time I get a little bit down working on criminal justice reform, I think about Bobby Scott, who's been doing this so much longer than I am, who has so much faith, so much hope, so much optimism, and never quits. And I think I can go another day. And I know he's going to give you the same feeling. So let's hear it for Congressman Bobby Scott.
Thank you, Molly. Give Molly a round of applause for all the work that she does with FAM. Is FAM out here? Anybody here from FAM? Anybody here from the Justice Action Network? Yay! Prison Fellowship? American Conservative Union? Freedom Works? Cut 50? Can Do Foundation? There are a lot of people out here who are interested in common sense criminal justice reform, but the first step we have to make is to agree that we're going to follow the evidence and research and not the simple-minded slogans and sound bites. Those simple-minded slogans and sound bites have got us to mass incarceration. They've got us the racial disparities. They're fighting a war, a simple-minded war on drugs. They're committed. They violate evidence and research time and time again. When we know that if we just follow the evidence and the research, we can not only reduce crime, we can also save money. So who's against that? Unfortunately, the slogans and sound bites have been winning the day, and we got to turn that around. And instead of choosing slogans and sound bites, we ought to choose the evidence and research. And that's why I introduced the Safe Justice Act, which is all evidence and research. It starts with crime prevention, evidence-based investments. It'll reduce crime and save money. Bail reform, which will make sure that we're doing a risk-based assessment, not a wealth-based assessment. Police training to make sure that the police are using the best techniques, avoiding the unfortunate deaths, brutality, make sure they're well trained. Then when you get to court, make sure you have the evidence-based courts like drug courts and mental health courts so that people get the best shot. You're dealing with the underlying basis. And when you get to sentencing, get rid of the mandatory minimums that only load up the prisons and do nothing to reduce crime. And when they get to prison, we need more services in the prisons. We know that people who get better education and job training in the prisons are less likely to come back. We save more money than we spend by reducing future incarceration. And then when they get out, make sure they have second chance so they have an opportunity to get a job and don't come back to prison. We know we can do that if we make the right choice. So we're counting on you to pressure your legislators to get them to agree that we're going to go by evidence and research to make sure that they do the right thing, that we can reduce crime and save money, and with your help, they're going to start making the right choice. Thank you very much.
What's up, family? How we doing? I'm gonna be really brief, and I'm glad I got some space in between me and my tears, listening to them two amazing young people. You know what I mean? Can we give them a round of applause one time? Like them, I'm a kid of an incarcerated parent. I ain't so much of a kid anymore. My father's been in prison 29 years. My name is Tony Lewis. I come from Washington, D.C., and I want to talk to you real briefly about the D.C. incarceration experience. We're the only place in America where if you break either a local law or federal law, you go to federal prison. We don't have a local prison system. And what that does, like in my case, my father was in California for the first 13 years of his sentence. So in terms of the first step, this bill, I think it's important to keep people within a 500-mile radius. Yeah, absolutely. Those familial bonds are some of the most important things to keep people through. And I like to tell young people, particularly to young people that were here, that you are the hope. you are the driving force in your parents' life, and I know I have been that in my father's life. As a professional, I help men and women in the District of Columbia when they come home and getting jobs. And like I said, everybody does their time in the federal system, and there's a big skill set deficit. So expanding training and education in the federal system is critical, it's pivotal, and as someone said before, it's shameful that we haven't had more of an onus on that. So this bill will support that. And for people that have family members that become terminally ill while they're incarcerated, I think expanding compassionate release is something that's major and super important to families and to inmates. So I stand with you. We fight every day for justice. If you know other families and children of incarcerated parents, I think you should wrap your arms around them, come closer to each other so that we can get strength, share experiences, share ideas, and also just encourage hiring policies to change, encourage school systems to support children with incarcerated parents. I love you. Thank you.
All right, we got a treat. I know it's hot. I would just say this one thing about how hot it is. Keep in mind that in Florida and Texas, these prisons have no air conditioning during the summer. It's disgusting. We're getting notes from some of the federal prisons right now that their ACs are broken. They've got fans in the hall. It's outrageous. The budgets are being cut. This is going to keep happening. So we can endure this heat, okay? You've heard a lot of speeches. I want you to hear a little entertainment right now. The next gentleman who's about to come up is named Payne the Poet. He spent 8 years in Virginia prison. He came out, and not only did he get back on his feet, he's now giving back to the community. This is his first year where he's making his living as an artist. He shares his experience through spoken word. I think you're going to enjoy it. Payne?
Peace. This is beautiful. See, the number one thing that bothers us while we're in behind those walls is the feeling that no one outside cares. We can't see this. We can't. So the fact that I can get a phone call from one of my friends that's still locked up and tell him, man, look, people came together for us. People came together as families out there that want to bring loved ones home. We heard the congressman speak on it earlier. We heard the prison fellowship president speak on it. You guys play a pivotal part when your family member returns home. So the poem I'm getting ready to do is based on my experiences the first 3 weeks of me returning home from prison penitentiary for 8 years. So just vibe with me. This poem is called Go There. I was struggling, y'all. No, really struggling. Dealing with the return to society from incarceration is complicated. I even had difficulty engaging in casual conversation. I used to hear there was reluctance in my eyes, and I gave off a vibe of frustration. You see, anxiety weighs heavy. I deal with it often. Institutionalization, the enemy. The fight against it, exhausting. Keep in mind, I was gone before Twitter and Instagram, back when Mike was alive and Bush was in office. Coming home, it could be hard to relate or hard to keep pace. It gets difficult just to hard to find place, and it really gets crazy when you're trying to do simple things like date. Especially if she feels like you're vulnerable and your position allows you to be easily molded or shaped. Or she feels your embrace can take place of a piece that passes poke from her heart, she feels some obligation to replace. Or what if she too has been through it, and since y'all both suffered, y'all had an obligation to be mates. And it's crazy considering that often the kind-hearted fall victim to obligations they create. You see, I never won any bond based off no charity case, and I can't force love where love obviously ain't, and I won't promise to provide the energy a relationship requires if I feel like I can't. I got so many demons I have to face, and it just wouldn't be fair. I said I had so many demons I got to face, and I don't think you want to go there. I don't think you want to go there, because if we go there, we have to go where I was projected and predicted to be another statistic. Oldest of 3 kids, 1 sister, 1 brother, son of 2 felons, a figure, the reflection of my father and mother, raised by 1 parent when daddy departed, leaving a woman and her kids off East 22nd, Columbus, Ohio, 1-bedroom apartment, couple sheets and a blanket on a mattress on the carpet. They say home is where the heart is, but what about when home is heartless? And I don't know why my father departed and did what he did as doctors delivered his kid. He did without a care, regardless of how desperate we live. But the effect of this is a kid on the edge who didn't care. A kid in a position where both robber and victim were terribly scared. But that's a whole nother poem, and we ain't finna go there. We're not going to go there because I don't think I can go there. I don't know if I know how. See, society has brought harm to my heart, and reality has hollered it out. So as a poet, I seem calm and composed, but inside I'm hollering out like maybe I do need love, but never known love to think it's a route. So I travel about, bitter and beaten, marked and scarred, suffocated under the weight of my own shortcomings. I struggle for air. I'm opposed to those that want to be there out of fear. My self-destruction will bring hurt to those that honestly care. I'm a victim of a pain that out of love I don't share, and I've been here my whole life, and I'm hoping y'all don't have to go there. You see, they tell me to look at the bigger picture. What doesn't seem wrong, but the problem with the bigger picture is not fully developed, and the frame wasn't built too strong. So when they tried to post it to show it, it couldn't hold it. It collapsed and folded. Now the image is falling. So as far as what the future holds now, y'all, I can't call it. I just know why I write what I write and I spit what I share. I know what it's like to feel like this whole world doesn't care. I know what it feels like to feel like nobody's ever going to be there because I've been where I've been, y'all. And I'm just praying none of y'all have to go there. Peace. Thank y'all.
You're up. You're up. No introductions for fame.
Pain, that was incredible. That is a very hard act to follow, but I'm going to try and follow it. I do want to just quickly say what Payne had mentioned. For me, it's incredible to see so many people here today and so many peers, because if you haven't gone through this with your loved ones and family members, it's hard for you to understand. And it is up to us to give them voice and let people know what is going on inside. And in doing so, we give them hope. And that is what they need. So it's wonderful to see everyone here today. My name is Debbie DeMacy, and I am from Boston, Massachusetts. My husband, Sal, was the former Speaker of the Massachusetts House of Representatives before he was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Within a few weeks after reporting to prison, Sal was stricken with 4th-stage throat cancer. He pleaded and he begged, but the BOP ignored his pleas and refused treatment for 6 months. My husband was not only fighting against a horrible disease, but against a stark institutional indifference. He was neglected, denied proper medical care, misdiagnosed, given the wrong chemotherapy, and was callously they took his only nutritional supplement away. He was on a feeding tube. They took it away for 2 weeks. That was the only thing that was keeping him alive. This clearly was cruel and inhumane. This, ladies and gentlemen, was inflicted by our government, our federal government, not a third world dictatorship, but our government that is supposed to represent, represent the freest, most civilized, and humane country in the entire world. Shame on them. Shame on those who would allow this. My husband's story is not unique. So many others without a voice, without support, and suffering today in our prisons. From 2013 to 2016, over 1,000 inmates died. And during that time, only a handful were let out on compassionate release. This is what you get when you take these and write them in the morning, because I was angry this morning coming down here. So I thought, no, I'm going to say something different. My husband was fortunate to be one of them. For these prisoners who are disabled, for those with severe psychiatric disorders, for those with acute or chronic or terminal disease, a prison sentence is all too often a death sentence. This is unacceptable. So I'd like to share a quote with you by Elie Wiesel. He was a Holocaust survivor, a writer, poet, and Nobel laureate. And when I read this, this seemed so appropriate for today. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there never must be a time when we fail to protest it. And that is why we are here today, to protest injustice and demand prison reform from our elected officials, to protect injustice and demand accountability from the Department of Justice, to protect injustice and demand that our loved ones are treated humanely by the Bureau of Prisons. Sorry. I'm going to rile you up because we have to get ready for tomorrow. So what we need is reform. We need it now. Let's go fight for it. We are their voices, and we are the ones that are going to create change. So everybody get riled up because we're going to do a lot of work tomorrow.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our nation's capital. My name's Sarah Anderson and I'm here from FreedomWorks. We're a limited government, grassroots policy advocacy group based out of Washington, D.C., but we engage in issues both state and federal. Rule of law, but fair constitutional application of that law is central to our mission. Criminal justice reform is a key part of making that happen. And the First Step Act, which we wholeheartedly support, is essential to moving the ball ever closer to that goal. Those who are incarcerated are still Americans. They are still humans, and importantly, most, nearly all, will return soon again to be our neighbors. Ensuring that once they have paid their due debts to society, these individuals return as productive, dignified, and successful members of society is absolutely critical to enhancing public safety and ensuring fiscal responsibility. Frankly, it is critical to living out the compassion that we are called to have for one another as humans. It is critical to demonstrate that we believe in and will empower the strength and resiliency of every individual. The families here today have highlighted that phenomenally. Criminal records follow offenders for life, regardless of the length of their actual sentence. It is in perfect alignment with conservative values to ensure that the correctional system, designed to correct those who find themselves in it, actually does so. A bloated, unaccountable government bureaucracy that fails its people and its nation 40% of the time is antithetical to what proponents of limited government believe in. There is no lawmaker in Washington who understands this more fully than Senator Rand Paul. A warrior for liberty and always a champion for doing what is right by the American people, Senator Paul has dedicated much of his time in office fighting for individuals who have made mistakes. Yes, for the betterment of their own lives, but also for the betterment of society as a whole. It is my honor to introduce him to you all gathered here today and to share with you in hearing the wisdom, thought, and care that he puts into this monumental issue of justice reform. With that, please welcome the junior senator from Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul.
Thank you. I think it's time that we end the war on drugs. I think the war on drugs has disproportionately incarcerated people of color, people from poverty, people from all walks of life, white, black, brown, you name it. But it hasn't been fair. All you have to do is read the stories on the Families Against Mandatory Minimums website and see what has happened to families. Often, if not always, the vast majority of these drug cases, no one was violently attacked, no one was injured. It involved the sale or distribution of drugs. Stephanie Nod was a 20-year-old single mom. She became pregnant, was forced to give birth shackled in prison. Her prison sentence for being involved with a boyfriend and distribution of drugs was 30 years. And so the thing is we've got to bring some sense into this. Cynthia Phillips was not a drug addict, not involved with drugs, but she made a bad decision one day to sell some of her diabetic pain pills. She sold 35 pills and got 25 years in prison. The cases go on and on and on. President Obama did some good things, commuting some sentences towards the end of his second term. President Trump has started, and I've encouraged him to do this. This does not have to be a Republican or Democrat issue. It should be about fairness, and it should be about looking at the individuals and saying, does this individual deserve 20 or 30 years in jail for a nonviolent crime? My answer is no. I will continue to fight for ending the mandatory minimums, and I will continue to fight for your justice. Thank you.
You heard the senator mention Stephanie Nod, who got a 30-year sentence for a first-time drug offense. She's our next speaker.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my daughter I had in prison. I just want to share a story with you about ladies having babies in prison, and I'm going to tell you my ordeal with her. It was on April 29, 1991. 4 days in the morning, my water broke. My roommate was pregnant as well. I woke her up and told her my water had just broken. She jumped out of bed. She said, I'm going to get the officer. She ran and got the officer. Before I can get myself together, her and the officer was back. He telling me get in the wheelchair. So they put me in the wheelchair and they rolled me on to medical. By the time I got to medical, there was the doctor and nurse waiting on me. The doctor examined me. And he told the nurse they got to get me out soon. Now, remind you, I'm in a lot of pain. And next thing I know, there was an ambulance and two officers escort me to the hospital. By the time I got to the ambulance, they put me on the stretcher and put me in there. One officer said to me, Miss Nard, you got to be in handcuffs. He took that handcuff and put it on my wrist and handcuffed me to that stretcher. I'm in pain. So one of the paramedics said to the officer, she can't have no baby in handcuffs. He said, that's the prison policy. So I went on to the hospital, handcuffed to that stretcher. By the time I got there, the doctor and nurse waiting on me. So he took me on straight to labor and delivery. So when I got there, they did take the handcuff off me right then. So it wasn't not long before I gave birth to her. So after I gave birth to her, they took me to a recovery room. So they got me situated and finally let the officer come back in. They came back in. One sat on the sofa and one walked back over to me. He said, Miss Snow, I got to put the handcuff back on you. He put the handcuff back on me on that bed. And a little while later, they brought her in the room with me. And the nurse said, you want to hold your baby? I couldn't hold my baby. I had just gave birth. I'm still in pain. So she set the baby on my chest. The officer must have felt bad because one of them said, can't hold your baby? He held my baby more than I held my own baby. And he sat there and rocked her. So reason why I'm here today to tell you what women go through in prison, they're giving birth to a baby. It's horrible. It's terrible. Women, you know when you're giving birth to a baby how pain it is. But you can't imagine being in handcuffs. So I'm asking y'all today, please speak out to y'all congressmen, the senator, FAM organization. They're a big supporter to me. Y'all voice make a difference, and that's why I'm here today, because they can't speak, but I can speak for them. Thank y'all.
Hello, my name is Naomi Tharp. I support criminal justice, the Reform Act, because I have had at firsthand experience. My boyfriend, Matthew Charles, has been sentenced back to prison. Some of you may know his story. Matthew was sentenced to 35 years in prison, served 21 years of that sentence, and was freed 2 years ago. Judge Sharp released Matthew, but the justice system decided he wasn't eligible for parole. They sent him back after 2 years of freedom. Matthew Charles is in jail right now. Matthew didn't go back to jail because of what he did within those 2 years. It's because of what he did 23 years ago. And because of this, Matthew is back in jail. Matthew is a good person. He's living a good life. He volunteers at a pantry. He goes to church. He also had a full-time job, an apartment. He was living a good life, but they took it away from him. 23 years ago, Matthew gave his life away. This time, it was taken away. Matthew deserves to be freed again. And with this act right here, Matthew will be out. This is what we need. This is the reason why Matthew went back. It's because of what we're here for today. And with this, Matthew will be returned home. And this is what we want. Justice for our people. Now. Thank you.
All right. We're going to have to chant a little bit. I'm going to say families, you say can't wait. All right? I was waiting for you to do this. No, I got it. All right. Families. 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 And I'm going to say justice reform now. I'm going to say justice reform. You say now. Ready? What do we want? Justice reform? I said that wrong. That's why this is... What did you say? What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice reform. When do we want it? Now. Family? Now. All right. I'm going to ask somebody to come up who wasn't expecting to speak. The person who founded FAM 27 years ago, made this organization possible. She's the one who started bringing families to Washington before it was cool, and she came here. She doesn't know she was going to speak, and so now I'm springing on her. Please welcome my predecessor, my old boss, my best friend, Julie Stewart.
I had to do it. Thanks a lot. Okay, I did not plan to speak, but I'm so happy to see all of you here. It just makes me want to cry almost, because when I started FAM in 1991, it was families against mandatory minimums. It was families. It's the people like you, the people like me who had a brother who went to prison, that really are impacted and really felt like something had to be done, and if we weren't going to do it, nobody was going to do it. So it's a lot later now, 27 years or so later, but I am so happy to see all of you here, because I feel like Kevin and the FAM team, I'm no longer active with FAM, I'm on the board, but I feel like it's in such good hands, and bringing all of you here is just such a reinforcement of how we have power, we have to use it. And you're using it in the most, effective way. And tomorrow you're going to go to the Hill and visit, well, you're on the Hill, visit members of Congress. That's so important. So thank you for coming from far and near and sharing your stories and being a voice for justice. Families really can't wait. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for time. All right. We're waiting for Congressman Doug Collins, who is the author of the First Step Act. He's on his way over. So instead of listening to me mangle chants, we're going to have Payne the Poet come back. Sorry about that.
Peace again, y'all. How y'all doing? I want to speak about how important it is that people have come all this way just to support their loved ones, just to see change for their loved ones. And there's people behind those walls who know that they got family out here fighting for them. that makes you bid different. Your time goes by a lot different when you know there's people fighting for you. You know, instead of getting in that fight, you read a book because you know your mother is out here trying to get you home. You know, you instead of not going to class, you go to class because your aunt and your sister want you to. You know, so just the fact that you guys are out here is a beautiful thing. So this poem is called Poet of the People, and it speaks to that. Just vibe with me. I represent the people, the ones who are loved, the ones who love, the ones with family and friends, all those with dreams and aspirations. I am one of them. Taken from society and then thrown back at a disadvantage, we're left abandoned. Subject to a system that's governed by other standards, a system that's underhanded. Maya Angelou heard the caged bird sing, and we understand her, but the truth is we scream, and no one ever speaks bird to understand us. Still, I represent the people. All the mothers with sons and daughters and fathers with the same. For them, we stand in front of monuments, shouting out for change. Equality and fairness, our aim. Having so much on our shoulders may weaken limbs, so those still standing strong fighting, I speak for them. I represent the people. All of y'all who heard Sam Cooke say change gonna come, and the ones who want to see it through. My position is like fire to the world. I'm here to make the people move, but I cannot do it by myself. I need you too. I need you by my side until everything is equal. Where discrimination arises, we will push until it's peaceful. And this is for the so many servant sentences that need you. I represent the people. And no, I don't have all the answers. I can't pretend to. But I connect to those confined. I understand what they've been through. I know the pain their pen touches the paper in every letter that they send you. So from my heart, I'm here to help and give a hand that this world may not lend you. I remember feeling alone. And it's sad because returning to society, the one thing you should be is happy that you're home. But could you imagine being amongst so many people and feeling as if you don't belong? No transportation. So many places that you gotta go. They tell us that being a felon won't stop you from getting jobs. Still, every application they ask, it's like, why do they gotta know? We've seen so many succumb to a single mistake, and after sentencing, their whole life is gone. We've seen spans of time far greater than the amount it takes to understand right from wrong. Return home, all your rights are gone. We spent years facing our crime, and all right, we're wrong, but I thought rehabilitation meant we're supposed to leave the past in the past and let life go on. Why don't we understand that mistakes don't make us unequal? We are not monsters, but I must warn you, that's how some will perceive you. Stones will be thrown, but that's just how some will treat you. Let no obstacle defeat you. So many suffer the same struggle, and so many need you, and for y'all, I am Payne the poet, and I represent the people. Peace.
How do you follow that? Very carefully, that's right. I'm David Safavian. I'm the General Counsel for American Conservative Union. We're so happy to be here today. We're so happy that you all came out to support the First Step Act. And I want to take a second just to give a big thank you to Kevin Ring, Molly Gill, the FAM staff, our partners at Cut 50, our partners at Freedom Works, our partners at Prison Fellowship. They have been awesome. I'm often asked, why does the American Conservative Union care about prisoners? It goes back to our founder, a guy named William F. Buckley, about 70 years ago. We support and pursue criminal justice policies that make our neighborhoods and communities safer, that make the government accountable for its actions, not just for how it spends the money, and advances human dignity, because we are all human beings formed in our Creator's image. It doesn't matter whether one is conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat. These principles should appeal to the humanity in every person here. And the First Step Act advances all three of those goals. A little more than a year ago, I had a fortunate opportunity to meet with Congressman Doug Collins when he was meeting with our team, getting an award for being one of the most conservative legislators in Congress. The son of a Georgia state trooper, he said he's working on prison reform and taking a little bit of a different approach, something more of a restoration and redemption approach rather than a hard lock them up and throw away the key type of way to deal with people in prison. Bringing together his experience as a pastor, as an Air Force chaplain, and as a lawyer, his idea was really simple. Help inmates leave prison better versions of themselves. And if you do that, it makes our neighborhoods safer, and we can slow the revolving door in and out of prison. Over the past year, all the groups organizing this rally and others have been working with Congressman Collins and with some of his peers on the Hill. And the result has been legislation that only the most hard-hearted, only the most cynical, or only the most uninformed could oppose. The First Step Act will make a real difference in people's lives, not just the people behind bars, but the people out in the communities where they're going to eventually return. The bill was approved in the House by a vote of 360 to 59. Let me tell you, in this partisan political atmosphere, that is nothing short of a miracle, and it tells you how important the legislation is. And it's really a testament to Congressman Doug Collins and his hard work and his tenacity and his humanity. The people of Gainesville, Georgia have every right to be proud of their representative and all that he brings and all the work that he does. So with that as background, I'm proud to introduce to you all today one of the authors, the introductory sponsor and the author of the First Step Act, the representative from Georgia's 9th District, Congressman Doug Collins.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being out here. It matters. You know, one of the things in life that we find out so many times, we get cynical about life. We say, just go about your life. You believe it, don't get involved. But you're getting involved in something that matters bigger than yourself. Because when you start talking about things, and up here in D.C., we get enamored with bills and we get enamored with ideas. But at the end of the day, some bills have faces in the bills. This First Step Act has faces webbed within the bill. Folks who are sitting in prison right now who could get home, who could get back to their families to be productive in their life. But it can start out now with the First Step Act giving people when they first go in, do what they're supposed to do, but have a chance when they come home to be the productive citizens that they need to be. This is a first step. Now, many of you will tell you, well, we need to do more, we need to do more. I'm all with you. But let me ask you something. When you first started walking, how many people jumped up and ran a marathon? Nobody. When you first started out in a relationship, you didn't say, well, you know, unless maybe some of you did, the first step of your relationship, you first didn't look at that partner and say, you know what, I just met you, but let's get married. No, it's getting to know, it's finding a way. Because here's what I want you to say to you about the First Step Act and what we're doing with prison reform and criminal justice reform. For me, it's pretty simple. I'm just a simple boy from Northeast Georgia. It's about M&Ms. M&Ms, money and morals. Money and morals. It's money in the fact that we're doing what the taxpayers do, that we need to do in a very good way, in a very proper way, and having those things that we need in our criminal justice system to keep us safe, but also to play a role in our society. But then it goes back to why you're here, the moral part. There's not anyone you will meet today, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, not anybody on this Capitol or anywhere in this country, that if you don't look in their eyes, you do not see somebody that is infinitely worthy in the eyes of their Creator. No one, no matter what mistakes they've made, no matter what path they've walked, no matter where they are, they have been given a gift of life to be here today. And my question for us is, how can we not take up for them? How can we not say that we'll take a first step toward giving redemption, first step toward ending addiction, a first step toward putting families back together, a first step toward saying people matter? That is why we're here today. So when you start hearing, if you go to my friends in the Senate, encourage them, do something. Don't give good words. Don't give good talk. Give good action. So we've got something in front of you. You want to make it better, but let's do something. The time for action is now. The time for action is now. First Step Act is the best first step we have. Then we move forward. Then we run that marathon, and we put it back where it belongs. Monies and morals, taking care of people, taking care of our money. We do that, this country is on the proper path it needs to be. God bless you, and thank y'all for being here today.